So to kick off again, we're really excited for today's town hall meeting because we have the distinct pleasure and privilege of introducing our new CEO, Charles Cryer, who's in London. Charlie and I have just returned from a visit to Mexico to visit the project and meet all the key personalities with respect to the project on the ground. Before handing over to Charlie, I really want to reassure everybody that Charlie actually has an historical knowledge of Santo Tomas. He was formerly with RFC Ambrian, and he'll give you some background on that. But in 2018, RFC published The Cupboard is Almost Bare, a treatise on copper projects around the world and their status. In 2020, they added Santo Tomas to a list of projects that they regarded as very fit for future mergers and acquisitions activity. In 2021, they published a targeted coverage on Santo Tomas. In 2022, a comprehensive market analysis that referenced our project. So Charlie's knowledge of us, of our project, goes back some 7-8 years. And he comes to us with the context of copper projects globally. So Charlie, with that sort of background and introduction, if I could ask you to unmute and jump in and join the conversation, please. You're muted. Yeah. Oh, okay. We'll make sure you can be unmuted at this end. You're going to get a request to unmute.
Okay, can you hear me now?
We can. Excellent.
Hey, we got that. We got
all for our technical challenges. Thanks for the flavor.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ian, very much for that very kind introduction. Hello and good morning to everybody who's on the line. Absolute pleasure to be with you in the sense of electronically, if not in person. I'm very excited about my new role and very much looking forward to working with the team to push and develop the Santo Tomas story and take it through to the next stages. Perhaps I should give a little bit of background to Ian referenced RFC Ambrian. Perhaps I should give a little bit of a fuller background to who I am and where I'm from. So I did I suppose I should preface this with to say that there's a little bit of Canadian in me. I did live in Canada for a couple of years to the age of 10, attending Prince Charles Primary School in Trenton, Ontario, Canada, which was pretty fantastic, and then came back home. So the love of maple syrup hasn't gone, so there's just a little bit of Canadian in me. I then went on. I did a mining engineering degree at Leeds University in Northern England, and followed that some years later, actually, with a postgraduate diploma in environmental pollution science, legislation and management. So I guess that's sort of my academic qualifications, if you like. From a career perspective, I started off, I did a little bit of work actually at British Gypsum Underground Operations, which is a very large gypsum mine, actually board and pillar mine in southeast of England in Kent, while I was doing my studies. I worked in Australia for Western Mining Corporation, in the exploration field crews, working out of Kalgoorlie, mainly looking for gold. So I had a lot of sympathy with the Santo Tomas geo team when we just visited, looking at the mountains that they had to drag IP lines over, and I absolutely empathized with that work. Subsequent to that, I joined Schlumberger in the North Sea and worked as a field engineer on North Sea oil rigs for some time, and then joined the city, really, and joined the financial markets, where I've remained really to this point for the last sort of 35 years or so. I started off as an analyst. In fact, the first project that I looked at as a junior analyst was looking at shipping schedules for Los Pelambres, which at that time was an exploration development project. It wasn't a mine at all. Things have changed since then. And subsequent to that, I then joined as a more full mining equities analyst with a group of people, initially at WI Carr Bank Inter Suez in London. And we were the first people really, I mean, albeit using Lotus 123 at the time, but we were the first people really to do global comparisons of all the world's gold producers and look at them sort of holistically on a comparable basis. Obviously, it's, mostly Canadian, South African, and Australian, but we were one of the first guys to do that. And then the team iterated itself and became the first international mining team for Royal Bank of Canada in London. And that was in sort of 96, 97. And when we were absorbed, or Royal Bank of Canada bought us as their international mining team. Following on from that, I sort of, with a mining specialism, merged into the emerging market world. And at that time in the 90s, you may recall, South Africa was opening up, emerging markets was becoming a new asset class. So I then spent the next 10 years or so working for some emerging market equity capital markets groups, investment banking groups, selling emerging market equities to global investors, with a specialism in the mining sector, given my background. And I ended up running the global emerging market equities sales and trading desk for Nomura in London, and did that through 2008, 2009, when we bought the European operations, or actually the non-US operations of Lehman Brothers. And then subsequent to that, worked briefly at Merrill Lynch, on the emerging market asset desk. And then subsequently joined RFC Ambrian in 2014. And RFC Ambrian, for those who don't know, is, I guess it's the preeminent independent natural resources corporate advisory boutique in Australia. It's a fairly small team, but with everybody in that team has had sort of dirt under their fingernails, if you like. They worked in the industry, process engineers, mining engineers, geologists, and so on. So we felt we brought a knowledge of the industry to the marketplace, which was useful. And RFC Ambrian specialised in corporate advisory, equity capital markets work, and strategic advice really for corporates. And they ranged from Anglo-American, for example. We did a global asset review for Mark Cutifani when he joined as CEO, and we looked at every single Anglo-American operation in the world. And it wasn't necessarily a deep technical dive, but we produced a sort of buy, sell, hold list, and ranged from that to equity capital markets activities, raising capital for junior mining companies listed on AIM or maybe in Australia. We also founded a number of technology companies, mining-related technology companies. Some of you may be aware of Photon Assay, which is a new technology involved in the gold industry to start with. It'll move to other commodities as we go. And we took that from zero to and listed it for $600 million market cap. And it is revolutionizing the assay market, giving people opportunities to have real-time assays. And also with something called Nextdoor, which is it's an ore sorting technology for copper assets. So Ian's reference to RFC Ambrian's work, copper work in 2018, looking at the copper market, we had Santo Tomas in that as one of the leading projects that we felt was likely to be subject of interest for M&A going forward. We identified early, I think, in the marketplace, the coming problem with the copper market, i.e. the lack of supply and demand increasing inerringly. And sitting today here with you guys, it's 35 degrees in London, and we don't have any aircon in those Victorian houses. So more copper, more electrification is definitely on the way. So I was familiar with the copper market to start with, and then I became very familiar with the Santo Tomas project and the team, who, as Ian referenced, I worked with for some years. So that really brings us to today. I hope that suffices in sort of outlining a little bit of who I am.
Absolutely. Thanks, Charlie. And so then we kept that off more recently with a very busy trip to Mexico, arguably bordered on cruelty in terms of schedule and what we got to do back to back. But it was an absolute thrill for me to be part of that, Charles. And perhaps I can sort of handball it back to you to reflect on your views of visiting the project now, sort of in the flesh and in person, meeting the team and just walking through the processes that are in place. perhaps even if you would just sort of mention the fact that we've sort of upped the game on the geotechnical with the GeoPura approach, that kind of thing. Just your first impressions. Several of the people on this call have visited the project, but most have not, and that might help give them a sense of what you saw. You may recall the team just put a very small sort of video together. If at some point you'd like to invoke that, we can hopefully overcome our technical challenges and share that.
For sure. Yes, thanks, Ian. Yeah, it was a fantastic trip. Seeing is believing. I've spent a long time and many hours working with Ian and Adam in my previous guys, looking at presentations and looking at maps of the deposit and so on. But the scale is truly fantastic when you see it in the flesh. And I think my overwhelming impression, however, was the quality of the people and the personnel and the genuine enthusiasm for the project and what the different sort of departments are doing and getting up to. So there was a real energy about it, which is very contagious. And I thought that was fantastic. Clearly the geologists and the team led by Andrew Ware are absolutely on top of the game and know exactly what's going on and are really excited about their activities and are buzzing with ideas, which is just fabulous to see. I think on a wider context, and I'm sure we'll touch on this in the questions possibly, but the sort of the local area and the security and those sorts of issues, clearly we're very plugged in with the local community. Umbaldo Treviso, our partner, is fantastic, and it's a very extremely well organized camp and extremely professional. So I think that was my biggest takeaway was the quality and professionalism of the people and the team that are in place on the ground, and that's hugely reassuring for me. Obviously, having not previously met most of them, sort of going into the lion's den, as it were. So that was fantastic. But certainly the project and the scale of the project, you walk away thinking that, well, that's going to be a mine. I mean, it's very clear that that's what's happening. So I think it's a step change from when I sort of worked with you at RFC Ambrian. Then it was very much an exploration project. Today, it's a development project. We're developing a mine rather than just looking for rock. So I think the last thing was it's very hot. But as an Englishman, pretty much everywhere is very hot, apart from perhaps Canada.
We'll focus on travel, not in midsummer in the future. But there's no harm seeing what the challenges are, right?
Indeed.
There has been significant rain, and so Charlie, I think you've got a view of what the challenges of the project team are on some of those day-to-day issues. And for the record, for the shareholders online, the team got an absolute charge out of meeting Charlie, Andrew, and I completely butt out of the tours of the core processing site, etc. So Charles had the opportunity to ask people all the tough questions and get a strong sense for what it is they do, and their genuine impressions, feelings, and hopes for the project. Is that accurate, Charlie? Do you think?
Yeah, 100%. And perhaps Mike could tee up the little video which we could watch would be great. And I think it comes across there that the range of people, the amount of work that's going on. Obviously, you're not going to hear some of the in-depth conversations I had around some of the innovations that we're looking to bring. Some of the project optimization opportunities and options that Santo Tomas brings to the party. But these guys are very clearly enacting some of them and very thinking hard about others. So I don't know whether Mike, the video is ready to go, but press the button.
We're getting there.
Okay.
Can you see that?
You should be.
I can see that.
And so we.
Ian, I don't know if you want to give a bit of a commentary of what we're looking at there.
Can you lift the volume just a little so we can hear Charlie? So Charlie, even though there's music to this, I think we've turned it down. Are people hearing the music, or can they hear me clearly?
I can hear you. No music.
Okay, excellent. So, Charlie, perhaps we can, if we rewind this a little bit, just sort of have you narrate when people aren't speaking.
Sure.
There's some music, but we've sort of, I hope, sort of brought the volume of that down.
Okay. Well, where we start? We're starting here. Okay. This is in the office on the. Oh. This is me asking some questions about the GeoPura crushing technology or bond index testing technology in the lab and the machine that we've got in there ready to process the samples. Ian, jump in with more technical detail if you.
Yes, certainly. So this is looking at advancing our understanding of the front end crushing characteristics of Santo Tomas feed ores.
And we're in the logging area for the core with the team.
Here, Charlie is with our chief geologist, Miguel Quintana. Here he is with, or that last shot was with the chief geotechnologists. Here we are having a load of assays loaded to go to the laboratory. We're sending materials about every 10 days currently.
And
these
that's
are
on
just
the
fields, sort of show and tell maps, etc. In this particular instance, we're looking south towards the Vinea project, which is our option south of Santo Tomas. Here we are in North Zone, looking back up the river, up the West Valley, which is where in the PEA we had the unprocessed waste stockpile. So these are just drone shots of us in the field. Here we are at hole S046. This is the southernmost drill hole, and I'll let Andrew speak.
I haven't got any sound, I don't think.
This stop was interesting. Andrew was quite relieved. He called it one of the better CEO stops he'd had in his career, because S046 is drilling some very nice shallow chalcopyrite, some good molybdenum, and this is beyond the edge of where we've drilled in South Zone to date. So we were quite happy and relieved that Charlie got to see something compelling, and it was a good stop. And Charlie, I think you were able to feed back standards of safety, the protocols, the expectations that we hold as a company.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Here we are at the dam, the Huites Dam, and again, we did some infrastructure visits around the project with Charles. Rail siding not too far from the dam. This siding is of interest because it coincides with the location for the high pressure natural gas, and there are land use opportunities here for building cogen plants for rail transshipment, etc. So that was an important stop. And last Friday, we spent some time reviewing the project, this time finally with a little less cruelty and in the presence of some air conditioning. So I hope that gives everybody just a sense of some of the places we went and stopped and subjected Charles to in terms of the travel. So it was a packed schedule, but I do believe we hit all the high points.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, so I think, if I may, that video sort of cues me up a little bit. Hole S046, as shareholders will be aware, we drilled to S021 in the PEA program. So we started phase 2 drilling with S022. We're drilling S046 now. That is the most recent collared hole with good progress. So I would argue that we're making steady progress with phase 2 drilling, mostly focused on South Zone resource work. And what we're looking to do is increase our certainty on South Zone, also sort of push the envelope of South Zone in a few places. Hole S46 is doing that. We're finding mineralization south of where we had previously drilled it, but coincident with where the geologists mapped mineralization in outcrop. So we're really aiming to increase our certainty around South Zone, to raise that to the level of confidence we have for North Zone. And based on everything I saw on this visit and that we were able to share with Charles, I believe that that's progressing very nicely. Some of the holes we're drilling are short confirmatory holes looking for the edges of South Zone, looking for where those contacts between mineralization and the less mineralized materials are. So not all holes in this program are looking for long intercepts of significant copper. They're really helping us define the South Zone. And so the consistency that we're seeing in the program so far, the coherence of the edges for the most part with where we anticipated we'd find them is coming through pretty much as expected, with a few nice small expansion surprises. So again, they're modest, but it's the consistency and the confidence that we're deriving from this program that I'm particularly pleased to be able to report. We obviously got some way to go. The program is far from complete. We also have to do metallurgical work, some some geohydrological drilling. None of that has commenced yet, but we're seeing reasonably good drill production. The crews are becoming far more experienced, and our performance on items like safety and field communications are all steadily improving. So I am pleased, relieved, and thrilled to be able to tell you that phase 2 is now underway, being run well, and meeting its objectives. Charlie, anything to add to that little?
No, I don't think so, really. I think that's a good summary of that, and I think that sort of goes back to what we were saying earlier, the sort of movement forward and taking the project forward and next steps, and they're underway. And as you say, they're delivering as expected, with some nice little surprises, albeit modest, on the way.
Exactly. Charlie, you referenced your interactions with Don Ubaldo and just the general sort of jurisdictional sense. You obviously met a number of people around that, around our presence in the place. Any comments on that? Sort of broader permitting, the sense you may have got from your trip.
Yeah, I mean, I think clearly we're embedded in the community. That's sort of the first thing to say. And I met with Faisal Rodriguez, the other board member in Mexico City, and managed to talk to him about his experience with permitting and the security issues in Mexico, and particularly in Sinaloa State. And obviously, he's an ex-Choix resident, so he knows the area extremely well. So for me, there was some clarity and understanding of some of the issues that we encountering, or operations in Mexico encounter. None of which, honestly, were shocking or made me nervous in any way. I think we seem to be managing them extremely well. Some of the issues are delicate, but I think we're on top of. We seem to be on top of those and managing the process going forward. And I suppose on the permitting side, which is the other area that investors will be interested in, there does seem to be a clear pathway. The Plan Mexico issue is extremely positive for Santo Tomas, and it potentially is a game changer. And my understanding of what's happening at Mexico federal level in terms of beginning to unlock the permit dam is moving forward. And Santo Tomas will be a massive beneficiary of that as that becomes those blockages from previous administrations or previous times become unlocked. So I came away with a very positive view on the permitting side, particularly, and the security side seems to be under control.
Thank you. So it's time to let Mike go to work. Give you a nudge and wake you up there, Michael, and perhaps you can field a few of the questions, and we can absolutely we can take those. Yeah.
Okay, so the first question that's come in is, Charles, around permitting. And I guess, Ian, you'll take this question. So the federal open pit permitting process has a national interest exemption. On what specific basis do you expect Santo Tomas to qualify?
So we have some pretty good insight on that, because as part of joining Plan Mexico, we went through a due diligence process run by the Mexican federal government. And really the focus was on community support, community mobilization, water independence for communities, those sorts of things. And because we had been proactive in most of those domains, we were added to Plan Mexico, which in itself, pardon me, is something of an exemption from the sort of general environment. So I think the continued focus on community investment, community enablement in things like water, infrastructure access, that kind of thing, is what will qualify us for support in items of the national interest.
Okay. Has there been any interest shown for M&A by anyone?
There's always incoming interest, actually, but to answer that question, I think we just our focus needs to remain push our project through PFS, and particularly Charles has a background in assisting companies with M&A, understands perhaps both sides of the desk on M&A better than I do. I'm an owner's guy with only owner's experience, and I think having Charles join us is going to mature how we manage and move forward M&A conversations. So I have to say I'm pleased, relieved perhaps, to have Charles on the team, because he has a far better background in managing relationships and moving projects forward towards M&A. Charles, that's probably all we should say at this point.
Yeah, I think so. As you say, I mean, I think the wider point goes sort of back to some of the fundamentals, which are in the copper market. The number of projects that are available for M&A that fit size, that are in the right scale, the right capex profile, the right infrastructure footprint. There's a very, very short list. I think back in 2018, we identified, I think it was 50 projects globally with resources of more than 3 million tons of contained copper, of which the vast majority had issues, serious environmental issues, or serious other issues, including strange shareholding arrangements, which precluded most of them from M&A. So the actual list of available was very short, and that remains the same today. Back in those days, I was involved with a number of conversations with quite a large number of people who were looking at the copper world. I think that number has probably only grown.
Thank you.
Okay.
Can you read that one? I think you can see it better than I.
Yeah. So your message in describing Northern Sinaloa as an area of lack of cartel activity, what data supports that? And how do you secure the transport corridor to Topolobampo?
So that's in two parts. Perhaps I'll take the first part. We have significantly reduced cartel activity in northern Sinaloa. It is not zero. We manage it by monitoring intelligence that is well embedded. We've done that from the commencement of activities at Santo Tomas. But we are not in a major corridor. For example, Mazatlan through into Sonora is a known corridor of multiple cartels competing in that district for trafficking of all sorts. The once upon a time cannabis growing sort of smaller farms economy that was around Choix has collapsed with the legalization of marijuana in various jurisdictions in North America, in the US and Canada. And so we are very fortunate insofar as we see substantially less cartel activity, and there are no other significant industries for cartels to leverage off in our region. So good fortune. Also being on the La Entrada El Pacifico, which is a trade route, multimodal trade route of significance to both the US and Mexican federal governments, I think assists. The second part of the question is securitizing the transport route to Topolobampo. We currently don't need to do that. We're not shipping materials over that route. Longer term, our product will be a base metal product. That does not mean zero risk, but we won't be shipping gold or gold concentrates or high value materials along the route. And I think that makes the securitization of the bulk commodity flows much easier than parties who are shipping precious high value cargoes. So we'll solve those in detail with time as the project moves forward. But I think the manageability of our product is substantially easier to achieve than perhaps other products might be.
Do you have any insight on San Nicolas? And if permitted, do you think that would increase the interest from a major to get involved with Santo Tomas at the MRE or PFS stage?
Again, a two-part question. Thank you. Particular insights on San Nicolas? No. We are hearing that they are making progress with permitting, but obviously the receipt of the permit is the ultimate tell. In the event that that permitting crystallizes and is successful, yes, I think it will change the view of large multinational investors in investability of Mexico. So, we certainly are looking forward to progress out of San Nicolas, but it is a very large project. It's complicated permitting, and we'll see it when we see it.
I think just to add to that, I think we'll see it when we see it is absolutely right, but it would make a big difference for both for M&A appetite, but also for foreign global institutional investors' appetite for exposure to Mexican mining projects. So it's both pools of capital really that would be impacted, I think.
Okay. The possibility of a less dilutive project-based financing has been indicated. Can you further elaborate on current progress related to this initiative?
I think at this point that we have nothing to elaborate on that particular opportunity. We're funded for the moment through our phase 2 drilling, and we're very, very focused on that. And I think I would perhaps make a plea to the group to allow Charles a little time to get his legs under the desk and settle in before we make large proclamations with respect to further financing and how that will be structured. Is that a reasonable request, Charles?
I think that's a reasonable request.
Yeah, thank you.
Are there any updates on samples from Vinea?
Great question. So the short answer is yes. We're just in some QA/QC on initial samples from Vinea, and we're waiting for a few more to arrive. But at the risk of stepping too far forward, we will aim to get a news release out on Vinea, and I might say within 3 weeks. I can reasonably anticipate the geochemistry to wrap up in that period. So we'll really try and get something out within the next 3 weeks, and hopefully we can meet that, and you can hold me to it, Mike.
You won't be the only one. Yeah.
Yes, no, I know. Once you've said it, right? Great question, though. Thank you.
Can you confirm the timeline of phase 2 and the best estimate on MRE?
We can confirm the aim timeline is to try to complete drilling this calendar year. As we do the geotechnical work, scope may change here and there as we learn. It's not a fixed outcome, but I think the aim is to complete the drilling this calendar year, and that would perhaps permit an MRE in Q1 next year. But given that the CEO will hold us to it, I won't commit. But that
Too late. It's on the tape.
Is the aim. That is the aim. Yeah. Is that reasonable, Charlie?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is reasonable. But I have written down, Ian's told me it's early 2027.
Who would be realistic acquirers of San Tomas, and how does the transfer approval requirement affect a potential buyout?
Yeah, I mean, we track a list of potential M&A parties. I think they're the same list of mid-size and larger miners as people who follow mining know, and we will focus on building contact with all of them. And this is actually an area again where Charles has long contacts and not just that, but representing both sides of the desk, which I think gives us a different entree to those parties. And again, perhaps I'll just suggest that we let the next few months pass and build that out. But I do think for the moment, at least from my perspective, and perhaps this call today, if we can sort of focus on the project, Charlie sort of getting up to speed there, and give him the opportunity to help frame the strategic next steps for the company, and perhaps address them in more detail at a future town hall. Perhaps that's better than me attempting to fill the gaps at this point.
Which leads into the next question. What benefits are there to Charlie being the CEO versus OCO being one of his clients?
That's a great question.
Benefits to me, or benefits for everybody?
To us, I guess, of having you join us versus have us as a client.
Well, that is a good question. I mean, I suppose I've left RFC Ambrian, so having you as a client for me wasn't really an option, to be honest. So working for, I mean, I think from my perspective, I've worked in the mining industry, I've worked in the financial markets, I know the story, and it's much more exciting, to be honest, to be on although you may perhaps don't realise this, it's much more exciting to be on the owner's side of the table than it is on the other side of the table. And I think that brings a huge amount of excitement and confidence in terms of what you're selling effectively. One can be cynical about the broking community, and I try not to be. But having worked in it for a long time, there are lots of reasons one can be cynical. But I think having an owner's hat on is a very exciting prospect, and perhaps some of my knowledge and experience, as Ian was referencing before, gives us a little bit of insight and ability to maneuver that space more effectively.
Thank you.
Are there any hurdles for completing the PFS by Q2, Q3?
I think the short answer is yes, there are always hurdles. We don't see any currently that should prevent us from getting that done. Really, I would imagine the larger challenge at the moment is that the various consultancies are exceptionally busy in this new price regime for commodities. And so currently we're busy trying to lock teams down and get them on schedules, have them commit to us to be available at points a year from now, to make sure we can deliver on time. And so at the present time, I would answer that question by external resources are our largest challenge. We have locked a number down, but we do have a few to go. So is there some risk that we slip Q2 to Q3? I think we have to be honest and say yes. But we are quite determined, is this reasonable, Charles, to say that we're going to give it our best college try to meet that end Q2 schedule.
Absolutely. That is the intention, and that's what we're going to drive forward to try and achieve. But as you say, I think the constraints on that timeframe are really external, and we're working hard now to secure those resources that we need in advance of when we need them.
Has the MIA been filed yet? And what are the remaining steps before submission?
No, we have not filed a mining MIA. In order to do that, you need a robust mine plan. So the remaining steps are baseline and at minimum a PFS. Oh, can you scroll back up, Mike? And can you name a single open pit copper MIA? The answer is no to copper MIA. Only the silver open pit, and that was the whole pit operation for Silver Tiger, has been approved under the Sheinbaum administration, and that is not insignificant.
What was found at S031? One of those modest surprises, or potentially something more telling of South Zone extensions?
Okay, S031, we believe drilled a little shallow in terms of angle, clipped the top of some reasonably good mineralization, and then came out into lower grade material. But we believe that had the drill hole been drilled a little steeper, we'd have seen a bit more of an extension. That's an inference. But we were very pleased with hole 31. However, we may drill another hole in and around there to sort of nail down exactly how far westward the edge of mineralization in that area is. It is quite difficult, I think, to describe in a few words, a sentence or two, the outcomes of individual holes. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it isn't as easy. We're going to continue to try to put those tables in, and I hope we can convey our thoughts in them with the descriptive text. But it's not always easy to be very, very precise with respect to the outcome of a complex hole. But thank you for the question. Again, in general, our drilling at South Zone is delivering what we expected, and perhaps here and there a little bit of what we hoped for. So, and I think the real key here is we're trying to up our confidence in South Zone, and at least so far, that is what the drilling is achieving.
Is there progress on the environmental impact study? When will it wrap up? Any intermediary results to share?
So yes, first quarter of the impact study is complete. It will only wrap up at the end of Q1 next year. There are no intermediary results. The baseline studies really are a counting of the fauna, flora, and domaining of them in through the seasons. If the question is, are there results that might be of concern, for example, the threatened or endangered species that we weren't aware of? The answer to that is no. We haven't had any issues identified that would cause us to be concerned. But there is, some way to go on the work. So, but nothing to be concerned about. And for myself, just very relieved that we're moving forward on the baseline. Environmental baseline studies have a shelf life, and so we held off starting ours until we were confident we could start drilling phase 2 and move the project forward in a coherent sort of whole project manner. So yes, pleased to be doing that. Thanks for the question. That was good.
I think the project is important for boosting the community's economy. Congratulations. But will it offer opportunities for professionals, and what are the application procedures?
Oh, wow. Great question. The project will definitely offer opportunities for professionals. We clearly are still in that early development phase that Charles referenced. So a constrained team, very, very focused on PFS and stages beyond. But we have begun some conversations with community college and professional development organizations, looking at what others are doing in Mexico to train everyone from professionals through equipment operators and other skill sets. Haven't triggered any of those. Those will be items for Charles to consider and guide the choices on. But we have begun to sort of list those opportunities. And Charles, we discussed that some with Andrew on Friday, if you recall.
Yeah, I think it's key. It's key going forward to be a good corporate member, a good corporate citizen. And I know that's what Oroco intends to do, and I will endeavour to keep that process going. So it's really important, and we will do our best, as Ian says, that we're having some of those conversations and make decisions in due course.
What are the plans for spot pricing for PFS? Are we going to be using 3-year trailing trend?
So good question. Short answer, don't know yet, to be honest. I think we have to, we've got some time before we work through that part of the PFS, and some time to contemplate how we approach pricing. We'll get some third-party views on that over and above our own. Any comments there, Charlie?
No, I think you've summed it up.
Okay, Charlie, a question for you. What would you like your legacy to be with this company?
Well, that's a good question. I haven't really thought about legacy after a week and a half's employment, to be honest. I'm just very enthused to be cracking on with the job. I'm impressed with the team, as I said so far, and I think we've got a lot of work to do. We've got an exciting road to go ahead. I think we've got a very exciting next 2 or 3 years. So we'll worry about legacy a bit later on.
Any updates on new infrastructure at Ranchito and it really becoming the heart of the operation? It looks like some new buildings adjacent to core storage and also relocation of Brasile's camp to Ranchito.
Yeah, great question. Evidently monitoring the internet and satellite photographs. That's great. Yes, we've relocated the Brasile's camp to Ranchito. All the crew are now resident at Ranchito. Charlie actually got to sort of see that after just a week or so of occupation. And yes, Ranchito is, as you've seen, expanding. We've got more capacity to repair machinery there. And yeah, more and more the center of operations, and Ranchito's looking good, and everybody seems quite pleased to be centered there and living there. So yeah, great question. Thank you.
That's at the end of it.
Oh, so it looks like that's it for questions. Thank you, everybody, for your questions. As I said at the outset, a real privilege and pleasure to be able to introduce you to Charles, to let you hear a few things from him in his own words. I think having a sort of a foothold in London, in the city, in that resource market, extremely positive for us. And speaking now entirely for myself, absolutely thrilled to have been able to travel with Charles to show off the project to him. I agree. As everybody here knows, I'm proud of the team, and I was extremely proud of what they were able to communicate to Charlie, and many of the things they shared with him, and etc. Were well in excess of what I could have done personally on a number of those subjects. So I think we have a maturing team, a young professional team, and I think with the leadership we now have, they're going to really help us deliver something very, very significant to the market. So thank you all for joining us. Mike, any last?
Oh, we actually just had one final question come in. There was some talk about a contest for a free trip to site. Are there any plans on that?
Only in July.
What? Right. Yeah.
We'll think about that. We'll think about that. We'll think what the contest should be.
Yeah.
Thanks for the good question, though. That's a great question.
Super. Yeah. All right, everybody. Absent any more questions, Charlie, maybe I can just ask you to wind us up and set us on our way.
Sure. Well, Ian, thanks. Mike, thanks for that, and thanks everyone for attending and listening in. I hope we provided you with some. Well, I provided you with some insight as to where I'm coming from. I'm very excited. We've got a big challenge ahead of us, but I think we've got a pretty clear pathway where we need to go in the next 6 months, and I'm really looking forward to working with the team to bring it on. So thanks all, and look forward to chatting next time.
Thank you. Cheers, everybody.